I thought I was stepping into the happiest chapter of my life. Newly married, sun-kissed from our honeymoon, overflowing with hope for the future. But the fairy tale cracked the moment we got home. The bills that started arriving weren't for the trip we just took. They were ghosts from years of hidden debt. I didn't just marry the man I loved. I married his secrets, his lies, and his addiction. I'm 28. My husband is 30. We met through mutual friends at a barbecue 5 years ago, and what started as casual conversation turned into a steady relationship. He wasn't flashy or over the top, but he had this easy charm about him, the kind of person who made everyone laugh, who never seemed rattled. Reliable. Solid. That's the word I always used when I talked about him to friends. We built our life slowly. Date nights, vacations when we could afford them, long weekends in the countryside. He worked in IT sales, I worked in marketing. Nothing glamorous, but steady enough. He always seemed to have things under control, and I leaned on that. He made me feel safe. Looking back now, I realized there were little red flags I brushed aside. He'd make jokes about being allergic to savings, or roll his eyes whenever I mentioned budgeting. Sometimes a bill would come in late, and he'd laugh it off as a clerical error. Once, when his card got declined at dinner, he winked and said, "Guess the bank thinks I'm too handsome for credit." I laughed with him because that's what he was good at, smoothing over cracks with charm. But I trusted him. Completely. When he said we were fine, I believed him. When he promised me stability, I took it as truth. What I didn't realize then was that his calm confidence wasn't stability. It was cover. Our wedding day felt like a dream. It wasn't extravagant, just close family and friends, a small venue draped in soft lights, the kind of celebration that felt intimate and real. I remember standing at the altar, staring at him, thinking I was the luckiest woman alive. His vows were simple but heartfelt, and for a moment, I truly believed nothing could shake us. The honeymoon only sealed that belief. We flew to Greece, spent lazy mornings sipping coffee on a balcony overlooking the sea, afternoons wandering through sun-bleached streets, and nights tangled up in laughter and love. He held my hand like it was the only thing tethering him to earth. Every smile, every kiss, every whispered promise felt like confirmation that I'd made the right choice. I'd never felt safer. I'd never felt so sure. We talked about the future, maybe kids in a few years, maybe buying a house sooner than later. He was enthusiastic, confident, full of plans. It felt like our whole life stretched out ahead of us, golden and secure. But even as we toasted to forever, there were shadows I didn't see. The jokes about money I had brushed off, the late bills I thought were harmless, they were pieces of a puzzle I didn't know existed. While I was soaking in the glow of being a new wife, the cracks beneath us were already spreading. When we returned home, still sun-kissed and floating on happiness, I thought our new life was beginning. In reality, I was walking into the wreckage of a secret he'd been hiding for years. When we came back from our honeymoon, I was still glowing. Our suitcases sat half unpacked in the hallway, my bouquet was drying upside down in the kitchen, and I couldn't stop calling him my husband. For a while, it felt like the fairy tale was spilling into real life. Then the mail started to pile up. At first, it was harmless enough, a few envelopes from the credit card company. I figured they were just charges from the wedding or honeymoon. We'd spent more than usual. Flights, hotels, a dress, catering. Totally normal. I stacked the envelopes neatly on the counter, planning to go through them with him later. But the stack grew. More envelopes came, thicker this time, some stamped with bold red letters. Final notice. Past due, urgent. My stomach tightened as I picked them up, one by one. These weren't fresh wedding bills. They were statements months, even years in the making. Credit cards maxed out. Missed payments. Collections agencies chasing balances I didn't even know existed. I tore one open with shaking hands and felt the blood drain from my face. It wasn't about the honeymoon at all. This was old. Long before me planning table settings, long before our vows, he'd been drowning. And he'd never said a word. I remember staring at our wedding photos framed on the wall, my smile frozen in time and feeling sick. That version of me had no idea, no clue that behind the man promising forever stood a gambler, a liar, and a trail of financial wreckage. The bills kept coming over the next week, each one a new gut punch. I didn't just marry the man I loved. I'd unknowingly married into years of hidden debt. I couldn't take it anymore. One night, after another stack of letters landed on our doorstep, I shoved them onto the coffee table in front of him. My voice was shaking, but I forced the words out. "Explain, now." He stared at the envelopes like they might disappear if he waited long enough. Finally, he sighed and muttered, "I was going to tell you. It's under control." "Under control?" I snapped, my voice rising. "Do you think past due notices and collection threats look like control? How long were you planning to lie to me? Until they repossessed the couch we're sitting on?" He rubbed his face, avoiding my eyes. "It's not as bad as it looks. I had a bad run. Some late payments, some bad luck. I can fix it." But the truth cracked through in fragments. A bad run wasn't a one-time mistake. It was nights at casinos, bets placed on football games, online poker sessions that lasted until sunrise. Slowly, painfully, I pieced it together. The guy's nights he'd brushed off, the random cash withdrawals I thought were for work lunches, the glazed look in his eyes some mornings. The debt wasn't from wedding expenses or emergencies. It was gambling. My chest tightened as I realized I hadn't just married a man with hidden debt. I'd married a gambler who had been lying to me for years. He tried to reach for my hand. "I didn't want to scare you. I thought I could stop before it got out of hand. I just needed a little more time." But the damage wasn't just financial anymore. I wasn't staring at overdue bills. I was staring at a future that suddenly felt like it had been dealt from a rigged deck. I didn't know what else to do, so I called my parents. I thought maybe they'd help me figure out how to climb out of this mess, how to support him while setting boundaries. I wasn't ready for their reaction. My mom's voice turned sharp the second I explained. "He hid this from you? All of this? After you married him?" My dad was even harsher. "This isn't just money, this is character. You don't start a marriage with secrets like that." They weren't just angry at him. They were angry at me too, for not seeing the signs, for trusting too blindly. I sat there crying on the phone, feeling like a fool. But nothing prepared me for what came next. When I confronted his family, hoping they'd at least be shocked, I was met with dismissive shrugs. His sister rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. Everyone has debt." His mom gave me a condescending look and said, "He's under a lot of stress. You need to be supportive." I felt my chest tighten. Supportive? I just found out my brand new husband had gambled away our financial future, and I was supposed to smile and cheer him on? Then came the real twist. His brother let something slip. He mentioned that time last year when my husband borrowed money to cover a casino loss. My jaw dropped. Last year. Before the wedding. Before the engagement. I pressed him, and the truth spilled out in fragments. His family had known about his gambling for years. They'd bailed him out more than once. They'd watched him spiral, watched him rack up debt, and not one of them ever told me. Not when I moved in with him, not when I said yes to his proposal, not when we stood at the altar. The betrayal hit me like a second wave. It wasn't just my husband who lied. It was an entire circle of people who let me marry him without knowing the truth. I felt like a pawn in some cruel game they were all playing, nodding along and smiling while I signed my life away to a man drowning in secrets. That night, I sat alone on the bathroom floor, clutching one of the bills in my hand, and I couldn't decide which hurt more, that my husband had lied to me or that his family had stayed silent. For the first time, I wondered if I'd married into more than just his debt. Maybe I'd married into a web of lies everyone else already knew about, except me. I told myself I'd stop digging, that knowing he gambled was enough. But the bills kept arriving, and each one felt like a puzzle piece. The more I opened, the more the picture sharpened into something uglier than I had imagined. One afternoon, while sorting through another pile of letters, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. A loan statement with my name on it, except I hadn't signed for any loan. My husband had taken it out while we were engaged, forging my name as a co-applicant. I confronted him immediately, holding the paper like evidence in a courtroom. He tried to brush it off, saying, "It was just paperwork. You wouldn't have qualified without me anyway, so I added you." But I wasn't stupid. He hadn't added me to help me. He'd added me to help himself, to pull more money out of banks while tying me to his mess. That's when the wedding receipts started to look different. The extra flowers I thought were a gift from his mom, charged on a credit card already close to its limit. The photographer? paid with a payday loan. Even part of our honeymoon package. The sunsets, the romantic dinners, the memories I thought were ours, had been bought with borrowed money. My dream day, the day I'd planned and obsessed over since I was a girl, wasn't just expensive, it was fraudulent. Every smile in those photos now felt tainted, every toast hollow. The dress I'd worn, the vows I'd spoken, the first dance I thought was magical, all of it sat on a foundation of debt, deception, and risk. I stared at our wedding album one night, flipping through pages of happiness that now felt staged. My cheeks hurt from smiling in those pictures, but I couldn't remember that version of myself anymore. The woman in white didn't know she was dancing on top of lies. And the worst part? I hadn't just married him. I'd married into the debt, into the lies, into a lifetime of cleaning up messes that weren't mine. My dream wedding wasn't a celebration. It was a con. I used to think the hardest part of marriage would be compromise. Learning to share space, balancing careers, planning for the future. But none of that compares to what I feel now. Because how do you compromise with lies? The money itself is terrifying, yes. The debts are overwhelming, and the thought of my credit being tied to his mistakes keeps me awake at night. But if it were just money, I think I could handle it. Money can be earned, paid back, managed. What can't be fixed is trust. Every time I look at him now, I hear echoes of his promises. That we were fine, that he had everything under control, that he wanted to give me the world. And now I know those words weren't vows. They were cover stories. Our marriage didn't begin with honesty. It began with fraud. I look at our wedding rings and feel nothing but heaviness. The vows I spoke that day feel tainted. Did I really marry him, or did I marry the fantasy he sold me? If love is supposed to be about partnership and truth, then what we have doesn't qualify. Sometimes I catch myself staring at him, searching for the man I thought I knew. But all I see is a stranger. A stranger who put me in chains I never agreed to wear. And I can't help but wonder, if love is built on lies, was it ever really love at all? Now I'm standing at a crossroads I never imagined I'd face so soon after saying, I do. Part of me wants to believe marriage is about loyalty, about standing by your partner through sickness, health, and even mistakes as big as this. But another part of me screams that love without trust isn't love at all. It's a trap. I don't know if staying means saving my marriage or sacrificing myself. So Reddit, do I fight for a man who's buried me in lies, or walk away before his debt and his addiction drag me under completely? I walked into marriage believing I was building a future, but instead I inherited a lie dressed up as love. The wedding, the honeymoon, the vows, they're all tainted now, funded by money that was never real. I can live with debt. What I can't live with is deception, because love without honesty isn't a partnership, it's a prison. And right now, I'm starting to wonder if I ever had a husband at all, or just his secrets.